So really quickly, additionally, I took a look at this girl's name, Jenna McClure, who was the one who was with the Trailblazer who hit me last night. Now it is September 9th at about 4:27 p.m. And I did a little research. On her Facebook, it says she is an employee of the Mountain View Bar Restaurant, which is problematic on several levels because that information was not shared last night. They have all kinds of problems in that area with drunk drivers, etc., and people drinking and driving. I've worked at a pizza place, bar, restaurant. I understand how it works. A lot of times people get a free meal and free drinks when they're working there. And this is problematic because right now we're in the dark too. That makes a lot of sense to me because that makes sense why the people at that bar restaurant were protecting her, and that makes sense why that police officer, the local police officer, and her probably have a history because they probably go up there quite a bit and they probably know each other. If she's been there in the region, he's been there in the region, and that is why he excused that behavior and did diverge from policy and chose not to do the breathalyzer test. It makes a lot of sense to me now. And additionally, looking at her Facebook and her Instagram, a guy photographed with her of someone who with dark hair and beard that they're looking for in that area doing another crime. And I pointed that out with a message to the Clackamas County on their Facebook. And perhaps that similarity in the look is coincidental and unrelated. I am not pretending to be an expert on that issue. It's totally separate from this issue, but I couldn't help but notice that. One other thing that really stands out, though, is this is a girl who has lots of photographs online of herself drinking mimosas, drinking coconut drinks, drinking Rainier beer, and partying and drinking is definitely a central theme when you take a glance at this person's online presence. And screenshots of those photos were taken. I think that this bar or restaurant that employs this person is ultimately responsible to some degree as well. Now, clearly, what we have is with this police officer is a police officer who has, and I think in court we're going to find this out, but clearly that police officer and that girl knew each other. And that makes sense to me because he kind of chuckled about it, and that's what's going on there. Now, I think that police officer needs to be apprehended and be arrested with handcuffs. I think the reason is because that police officer, he diverged from due process and procedure, and he needs to be charged in court with suppressing the fact that that was a drunk driver last night. And that's the essence of this. Now, more importantly, though, the actual restaurant bar of Charlie's View or whatever now, and all of the staff, but the ownership of that bar, which is responsible for the staff's actions, etc., and the belligerence and behavior that I encountered last night, unfortunately, they are now responsible for creating the situation too, because their staff member, who I believe was drinking when they did this, and even if they weren't drinking, their employee at their job site pulled her car out of the parking spot in front of their thing into the road and hit me. And before and after that's her place of employment, what's going on inside that place? This is not a client of that business. This is an employee of that business, if that makes sense. So if she was or she was not drinking beforehand and afterhand, that data and that information needs to be shared, and it needs to be shared, and it needs to be known by the ownership of that Charlie's Mountain View. They have a legal obligation to know if their employees are sloshy and drinking and driving, they're liable. And that's exactly what we have here. And I think that wraps up exactly what I wanted to share. But specifically, this person's name also has the devil or the mark of the beast 666 on her Instagram. That is not that is indicative of someone who might have some problems. And I don't. My personal job, again, my responsibility is not to police this person or try to get into their life at all. My responsibility is to do my research and take a look at this. And this person has lots of photographs online of herself, substance abuse related, party related, at Mountain View specifically, but also in other locations, but specifically at that place of employment. It's listed as a place of employment for her. And if she's an employee and she was drinking beforehand, or, regardless, that ownership has a legal obligation to be managing their staff and employees and ensuring for the public safety that they do not drink and drive. And, sorry if I'm not the most, might not be the most popular opinion up there in that particular region where there's kind of rural mountain outdoors town. People like to party. I don't have a problem with any of those things. I love, partying's great, outdoors is great. Those kids all look like they're great kids. She's probably a great kid too, great young person too, great woman, and I don't think that this is going to harm her life at all. Uh, I'm just doing a police report, sir. I'm going to take off. Thanks.
Oh, you're doing a police now?
Yeah.
Police. No, that's fine.
Okay. And I'm just parked here down by Hood River, and the guy came up and said you can't park here. But I was just trying to park away from people while I did this real quick. I got to go. But to wrap it up, all these people are good people. No one died, but someone could die if this behavior keeps going. If that cop is going to continue to turn a blind eye towards substance abuse with employees of that particular bar and other bars, that's unacceptable. And those behaviors of the ownership of that restaurant and that police force in that town, those behaviors are going to need to be changed. And if they're not willing to do it themselves, then they will be charged in court, and they will have to, lose their jobs. And I think that, or go out of business for that restaurant business. And that's kind of where we're at. We're not, I'm not here to be the bad guy. I'm in the shoes of a cop right now. But here, I'm a sober guy traveling through. Someone smashed into my brand new car. They're laughing about it, yakking about it. There's something wrong here. I don't want people on drugs. I don't want people on drinking, doing shit that's reckless and that's harmful because, this bang the door of my car and smash it, it was a bummer for me. It bothers me. Yeah, absolutely. But that behavior with that person, unless you step in and try to change it, it's going to happen again. It's removed from that business in that area, which I don't think is a solution. But that business is going to have another female employee or another young employee in the next 2 to 3 years, and they're going to be drinking and working there and live 3 miles away, and they're going to back in, or they're going to kill someone or themselves and recklessly endanger themselves or anything else. And if that police force doesn't want to take it seriously and knows that girl, and it's just simply excusing her behavior because she's kind of a cute young girl and it's a male cop, and they have a past history and they know each other, well, then that's 100% unacceptable, and that's why that police officer will need to be censured and will need to be penalized and removed from his position for a period of time. And if they have no history with each other, that's just simply impossible and unlikely. If she's working at that place and he's there and he responds to the calls, I'm sure they have a fair amount of calls. That's what everyone told me when I was there last night. So that's my conclusion. Just underlining and circling the point that this is an employee of the actual bar, and now that was shared last night, it makes a lot of sense now to why that behavior was overlooked by the officer. But then I also want to underline and circle the fact that since it's an employee and she went back into the place, I was there before, and I know employees at bars and restaurants typically get free food and drinks, or at least sometimes, and the fact there's so much online presence of this person partying and drinking, that I believe that specific Charlie's Mountain View is liable and responsible for creating that scenario where my car got damaged, and for having to be positioned to be able to prevent this in the future. They're going to have to change. They're going to have some training. They're going to have some obligations to not have their people, partying and drinking. And if they're on the clock, are they going away? Are they coming back? Maybe she's not on the clock that night. All of this stuff is going to happen.